Welcome to the Bolshevik News. Guys, I'll just run this video throughout this upload and just talk about a few things that we're looking at. For sure, there is something definitely taking place on our planet with regards to what is going on in the core. You can see if you just look over the northern hemisphere, and the problem I've got with using the pointing arrow is the frame rate which I copy. It probably won't be there in the same place as what we're talking about. So if I just talk about these individual poles over the northern hemisphere as the Canadian pole, which you can see reducing, and the Siberian pole, which you can see is slightly expanding, you'll get the idea. And we can also talk about the one in the southern hemisphere as the Australian pole, which you can see is also expanding and slowly creeping over the continent of Australia. Guys, I think this video for me makes the hair stand up on the back of my neck. It really does. Just puts it into perspective on how fast things are progressing. This is why I say we've probably got 5 to 7 years before major activity takes place on our planet with regards to probably all the anomalies that we've been talking about over the last, 7 years or so. It is going to affect the climate in a way that even if we try to modify it with cloud seeding, we're not going to be able to do it. It is going to affect the food production as a result of the climate moving. There's nothing we're going to be able to do about it other than we are going to have to some way come together, all of us on this planet, and figure out a solution. And right now there isn't a contingency plan put in place to feed, I believe, the 8 billion people that are on this planet right now. As well as that, we've got tons and tons of other side effects which we're going to have to sort out some way or some form. And I think for most of us it's going to be us all fighting for ourselves at that crunch point, and we could only be 5 to 7 years away from it. You can see the Canadian pole is just leaking its intensity over the pole, over the northern hemisphere, right into the Siberian one. And you can see the Siberian pole is going straight into the main intensity. The red area is creeping down into China right now. Australian pole is lurching up towards the equatorial region. And these are opposite poles at the end of the day, guys. They are going to attract each other, and I think that is the reason why the Canadian pole is dispersing over to the Siberian pole at the rate in which it is. If you look at this video, it only covers around 9 or so years, or 10 at the most, and you can just see that white line over the Canadian pole, that ring, shrinking over that period of time quite dramatically. We are, I think, in the progressive stages now of our Earth going into its full magnetic reversal, and the implications are going to be felt by each and every one of us on this planet. There must be a reason why Swarm didn't release any more data on this from 2016 to the present day. There's another 3 years missing from this data, nearly 4 or 3.5 if you want to be more accurate. We're doing all we can here. We've placed magnetometers in these high intensity regions so that we can monitor the progression of these poles and their activity. We are going to see in the next 5 to 7 years the Canadian pole dissipate completely, I believe, and I think we will surpass the 40-degree mark where the poles will go into a full flip at that point. You can see what's happening clearly on this video. The Siberian pole and the Australian pole are racing towards each other, and they will meet because they are antipoles, and antipoles attract each other. From what happens there on after is anybody's guess. But another thing you can note on this is the South Atlantic anomaly. The darkest blue part in the mid-Atlantic or South Atlantic Ocean is increasing in size, and that is the lowest magnetic field. It's worrying because as that increases, the magnetosphere strength of this planet will decrease as well. I've said it many times. I think you know, we're going to find out that probably I'm not too far away from the truth. You know, magnetic poles on planets are the major planetary mechanics of a biodiversity, you know, or a planet with life forms on it. You know, if you lose the magnetosphere, you know, life probably won't exist on that planet. It'll end up looking like Mars if it doesn't reconfigure into some fashion. You know, we've watched it take place now for over 100 years. Over the last 30 years, it's probably got more activity, picking up pace, covering more distance as it migrates. You know, the game is on for definitely. We are going to see this happen, there's no doubt about it. You know, these main organisations were saying 10 years ago we could be 1,000 years away from a magnetic pole shift. You can see what's happening yourself, guys. This is definitely going to take place within our lifetimes, and I think the chances of it taking place within the next 5 to 7 years, going at the rate in which that Canadian pole is dissipating and being drawn over to that Siberian pole, you know, I think that, you know, it's highly likely that that will be the case. What we've got to look forward to in the next coming years is an increase in you know, these strange weather anomalies. You know, it's going to affect the climate massively. We're going to lose the 4 seasons of growing, you know, crops and things like that. And, you know, like I say, we need to come up with some plans, and we need to work globally together to do this, because it is so serious what the implications that we face, you know, in the coming time. You know, we really need to start working together. I mean, it's not just weather affecting crops. You know, the magnetosphere collapses and we get a mild CME, coronal mass ejection, come off the sun. It could take the grid down. If we end up with Arctic climates, you know, in highly dense cities, you know, then we could have power lines failing because of the amount of ice and snow on them. Simply, you know, you'll have the same effect. And, you know, there's the other thing as well, you know, that's already apparent, you know, how it affects migratory species. You know, how is that going to affect one of the most abundant food sources we have on this planet? Everything across all ranges, you know, is at threat. And what is being done about it? You know, we can find, you know, £500 million to build a cathedral that collapsed. What is being spent to ensure the continuity of the 8 billion people on this planet? Are we really going to have to just look after ourselves? Because if that's the case, you know, yesterday was the time to start preparing for it. Simple things can be, you know, the insurance policy for you and your loved ones. You know, a plan in place. What will you do if the grid goes down? Where will you go? You know, and what provisions will you put up? Those are the things that people really need to start taking on board. You know, we are a microscopic drop in the ocean, guys, on this channel and our website. Probably get 4,000 to 5,000 views on the website a week. And we probably, well, as you can see, we've got nearly 22,000 subscribers. Compared to the 8 billion people out there and the amount of people that are aware of what's going on, it is just simply not enough. More needs to be done. You know, I will do my best, guys, with what I've got at hand. And, you know, I think we've got a good plan in place. We've got our magnetometers now in America. I put the one in post yesterday to Perth in Australia, so we've got Australia covered. And really we want to put one in the emerging path of that Siberian high intensity region, which is now creeping up over China. We've got them in perfect positions, guys. Where we've put them in South California and Kentucky is right almost on the brim of that shrinking intensity of the Canadian pole. Where we've got them in Australia is just where that high intensity region is now about to creep up over where our magnetometers are going to be placed. So we've done amazing up until this point. Only 3 months ago we set about, you know, going international with our magnetometers, and they're already in their locations. There's just a couple now that we want to get out, and you know, as you know, that's proving a little bit difficult, but I'm guaranteeing you guys we're going to get them there where we need them. They will be hopefully in and around about that region in China, where that intensity is creeping down towards the equatorial region, in the path of the Australian pole. So, you know, we are doing all we can, and you know, those I've spoke to a few guys. I've got the magnetometers. You know, they're in the test procedures with them. We're going to run a test for a week. They're going to send me the data back. I'll process it. I'll show you guys what we've got, and then we'll put them into full run mode, where they'll be running for the next month before we get the data, and we can see whether there is, you know, any activity and at what rate it is. You know, these magnetometers are going to give us an idea of how fast things are progressing. We can make some forecasts on with that. I was just talking, you know, just to finish off the video, I was just talking with someone only yesterday, and you know, they were saying, you know, they couldn't believe the amount of effort that I'd put into all this. You know, one guy on his own, really, with a little bit of crowdfunding, has managed to set up an observatory to monitor this anomaly that's taking place. And I'll tell you, one of the reasons why it's a big thing for me is because I have been focused on something to do with this reversal, this pole shift, and that is mainly highly concerned. I'm really concerned about this one thing, and that is the fact that it has taken another 500,000 years on above average. You know, like I said before, it used to go through a reversal, this Earth, on around about every 350,000 years. This time, for some reason, it has taken an extra 500,000 years, and that means that we cannot gauge this on any other reversal, because it's entirely different for that reason, or that fact alone. So, you know, I have in the back of my mind that this could be the last reversal, as a result of the fact it's taken another 500,000 years to go through this reversal above average. And if that is the case, then there is nothing we can do. We will lose the magnetosphere. The Earth's water will be subject to sputtering, and the oceans will dissipate. That just like that, you know, Mars used to have an active magnetic pole, and you know, we can see from studying its terraform, it had water. And if we lose the magnetosphere, our Earth is gearing up to look like whatever took place on Mars could easily take place on our Earth, and we're going to lose something very, very valuable, because there is nowhere for us to go. We don't have the ability to leave our solar system and travel to, you know, another planet. There just isn't one within reach for us. And you know, we could be looking at the worst case scenario, you know, the complete ending of, you know, our biosphere, which is, you know, protecting us from everything else out there in space. Yeah, so that for me is what has drove me to do this, and invest my time into it, because I really, really hope that is not the case. However, you know, the facts are what they are. Guys, it's Easter weekend, or Easter holidays for most of us, and you know, I want to wish you a great time. And you know, the links are down there if you want to support what we do, and I'll catch up with you now in the week at some point. And you know, the links are down there if you want to support us, and I'll say what I usually do. Enjoy yourself. Bye for now.